So, this week we wanted to talk about xiaokao, that is, Chinese barbecue. See, like basically everywhere in the world that has their own version of stuff on sticks smoldering over charcoal, xiaokao is one of those things that's probably equal part food and culture. As the sun starts going down in a Chinese city, the xiaokao joints begin setting up for the night. You can think of these places as like half restaurant and half bar, a place that you can munch down on a veritable smorgasbord of meat, tofu, and veggies, sure, but also a place that you can kick back, relax with friends, roll some dice, and let the empty Qingdao bottles slowly pile up. I love xiaokao, and we've been wanting to do a Chinese Barbecue 101 video for you guys for a while. But the bad news is that in our apartment complex, we still aren't allowed to grill out on our balcony. But with the grilling season coming up, we figured we could at least go over the foundation of Chinese barbecue, the spice mixes. Now, as befitting something that spots street corners around the country, there's going to be a ton of diversity here. Someone from the Northeast is going to use different mixes than someone from Xinjiang would. And even outside of those regional differences, different companies and different vendors will have their own mixes. So while we will be going over 3 different types of xiaokao spice mixes today, just know that these ones are far from universal. So that said, first we'll go over a chili powder-based mix that can sort of function as a general all-purpose xiaokao seasoning. You usually see this stuff sprinkled on things like chicken wings or tofu skin. Then we'll show you a Guangdong Guanxi variant of that, which hits a lot of the same notes but is a bit less spicy. And finally finish up with a classic Cumin seasoning that's an absolute must with lamb. So first up, our all-purpose mix, which relies, of course, on chili powder. Now, unlike chili powders in the West, Chinese chili powders are usually made from toasted chilies. So while you can absolutely swap in something like a quality cayenne pepper here, let's just show you how to toast some chilies real quick if you feel like going the extra mile. So first grab some dried chilies. These are a chili that we really like called Guizhou Longhorn, but anything with a medium kick to it like arbols, japones, or cayennes would work just fine. Just snip your chilies into 1-inch pieces and toss in a wok and toast over a medium-low heat for about 8 minutes, or until the chilies have deepened into a chestnut color like so. Then just toss in a strainer, give those a quick jiggle to get out some of the seeds, and give those a blitz in a coffee or spice grinder to get it into a fine powder. For this recipe, we'll need 1 tablespoon's worth. Besides that, we've also got a half teaspoon of cumin seeds blitzed into a fine powder, together with a 1/4 teaspoon of star anise powder. A 1/4 teaspoon works out to roughly 1/3 of a star anise, and while you could break it apart, we usually just grind up a whole one and reserve the excess. We've also got a 1/4 teaspoon of white pepper powder, a half teaspoon Sichuan peppercorn powder, a 1/4 teaspoon each ginger and garlic powder, a teaspoon of salt, and a half teaspoon MSG. For the MSG, if your MSG is larger crystals like ours is, first pound it into a powder, then add all the remaining ingredients. Quick mix, and with that, you've got some barbecue seasoning. Now, a slightly different way of thinking about the same thing is what we consider to be a bit of a Guangdong variant. It's a bit lighter on the chili powder, here about 1 teaspoon, and hits it with an equal amount of sand ginger powder. Sand ginger, or shajiang in Mandarin, is also used extensively in Malaysia, where it can be found under the name gunshi. Usually, we recommend subbing the stuff with galangal, but honestly, this mix is so sand ginger forward, just do the previous one if you can't find it. Besides that, we'll also be using a half teaspoon white pepper powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of 5-spice powder, together with a mandatory salt and MSG. Pound the MSG if you need, quick mix, and that is good to go. Next up, cumin lamb seasoning. This is an especially common mix in northwestern style xiaokao, and a popular choice to go with lamb the country over. If you go to a xiaokao joint, looking behind the grill, you can often see 2 shakers, one for the chili powder mix and one for the cumin mix. And while we did go over this one in our cumin roast lamb video, it's definitely worth going over again. A cumin seasoning mix then predictably relies on cumin. This was 5 teaspoons worth of cumin added to a spice grinder and blitzed. When you're grinding your cumin though, you do have to be careful that it doesn't get too fine. 10 to 20 seconds should be about right. You don't really want visible seeds, but you also don't want it to be overly powdery. Besides that, the other thing that this will rely on is toasted sesame seeds. Always a useful thing to have around. To toast, first toss in a dry wok and stir for about 5 minutes over medium heat. You'll know they're done once they've deepened in color and started to make some light popping sounds. Then besides that, we've also got 1 teaspoon of fennel seed, this time blitzed into a fine powder, a teaspoon of chili powder, a teaspoon of salt, and a half teaspoon MSG. Same deal, grind the MSG, but this time go in with the sesame seeds after and give them a rough pound. You don't want the sesame to get into a powder or anything, but you do want to pound them open so that they release their oil. All the other stuff in, quick mix, and the lamb seasoning is also done.
So in Chinese xiaokao, especially for meat, not all the flavor comes from the spice mix. It also comes from marinade, but they don't marinate like all the meat, of course. However, there's like a whole other world about meat marinating. But worst comes to worst, you can always use our standard marinade minus the cornstarch and sprinkle the spices on as you grill it. So check out the description box for written recipes. A big thank you for everyone that's supporting us on Patreon. And of course, subscribe for more Chinese cooking videos.